Something is happening around the Cincinnati Bengals right now, and if you've been paying attention to the early stages of the off-season program, you've probably felt it too. There is a growing sense of optimism around the team, but not necessarily for the reasons many people expected. While plenty of attention naturally goes toward the biggest names on the roster, some of the most interesting developments coming out of the first OTA sessions have involved players and storylines that weren't dominating conversations a few months ago. One comeback story is gaining momentum. One new addition is already making a strong impression inside the building. And perhaps, most importantly, there is a feeling around the team that continues to get stronger with every practice. Before we get into everything, make sure you subscribe and stay connected, because the next few weeks could bring some of the most important developments of the entire offseason, and you won't want to miss any updates as the Bengals continue building toward the 2026 season. Now, let's get to what matters. One of the biggest stories emerging from the early OTA sessions is the return of Eric All Jr. To be honest, this is not a storyline that many people were focusing on when the offseason began. There were other names generating headlines and other position battles attracting attention. But, as practices have started and more information has become available, Eric All's journey back to the field has become one of the most compelling stories surrounding the team. When you look at everything he has been through, it's easy to understand why people inside and outside the organization are rooting for him. His injury history has been extremely difficult. The challenges go back to his college career when he dealt with a back injury that created problems during his time at Michigan. Then things became even more serious beginning in 2023 when he suffered an ACL injury. According to the information discussed during OTA coverage, the first ACL procedure did not ultimately deliver the results he had hoped for. He managed to return and play in 2024, but he later explained that his knee never truly felt right during that period. Unfortunately, the setbacks didn't stop there. During the 2024 season, he suffered another ACL injury. That led to additional surgeries and a lengthy recovery process that kept him away from football for approximately a year and a half before reaching this stage of the 2026 offseason. Just think about that for a moment. A year and a half away from the game, a year and a half spent recovering, rehabbing, waiting, wondering, and trying to get back to a level where he could compete again. For many players, that type of journey can become overwhelming. It tests patience. It tests confidence. It tests belief. That's why some of the comments coming out of camp have been so encouraging. Head coach Zach Taylor explained that the organization is still progressing carefully. There is no rush. The focus remains on getting him back onto the field, continuing his recovery process, and evaluating where things stand as training camp approaches. What stands out most is that Eric All himself sounds optimistic. His comments suggested that he feels significantly better than he did when he first arrived. In fact, he described feeling like a completely different person compared to how he felt previously. That is an important statement. Nobody is guaranteeing what his role will be. Nobody is suggesting he suddenly becomes the primary target in the offense. The discussion isn't about projections or statistics right now. Instead, it's about availability. It's about having another healthy player contribute. It's about a comeback story that has a chance to turn into something meaningful. And sometimes those developments matter more than people realize. Every NFL season is filled with moments that nobody predicts months in advance. A player returns from injury. A depth piece becomes an important contributor. A position group becomes stronger because one player managed to overcome obstacles that once appeared impossible. That's why Eric All remains a name worth monitoring as off-season practices continue. If he continues progressing and reaches training camp healthy, the Bengals could find themselves benefiting from a player who has spent a tremendous amount of time fighting simply for another opportunity. And that kind of story tends to resonate throughout an entire locker room. The second major takeaway from the OTA period involves one of the most discussed additions of the offseason, Brian Cook. From the moment he arrived, there has been considerable interest surrounding what he could bring to Cincinnati. Not only because of his talent, not only because of his experience, but because of the reputation he carries with him. The theme surrounding Brian Cook throughout these early discussions has been remarkably consistent. He's viewed as a winner. That word continues to surface whenever his name comes up. And while statistics and physical abilities always matter, organizations also value leadership, professionalism, and experience gained from winning environments. Those traits appear to be central to the excitement surrounding Cook. Observers covering the team during voluntary workouts have pointed to his history of success and the impact that experience could have on the Bengals. The idea isn't simply that he can help on Sundays. The belief is that he can influence the culture throughout the week. That matters. Teams don't become successful only because of talent. They become successful because talented players establish standards. They create habits. They create accountability. They create expectations. The conversation surrounding Brian Cook suggests that Cincinnati believes he can contribute in those areas. In fact, there is already speculation that he could eventually emerge as one of the team's captains. That's a significant statement considering he is a relatively new addition. Think about what that would mean. A roster filled with established players. A roster containing veterans and recognizable names. Yet there are already people discussing the possibility that Brian Cook could earn enough respect to wear a captain's designation. Whether that actually happens remains to be seen. But the fact that the conversation exists at all says a lot about the impression he is making. There is also a local connection that adds another layer to the story. The feeling throughout the discussions is that coming to Cincinnati meant something to him. There is a sense that he genuinely wanted this opportunity. Those details matter to fans because they create an immediate connection between player and city. Supporters appreciate players who embrace the organization and understand what representing Cincinnati means. On the field, the expectations are straightforward. The Bengals wanted stronger safety play. They wanted more experience. They wanted versatility. They wanted physicality. And they believe Brian Cook can provide those qualities. The discussion surrounding his fit has consistently highlighted his ability to contribute in multiple ways while bringing leadership and stability to the defense. That combination explains why so many people are excited about the move. But beyond individual players, there is a larger storyline developing around the Bengals. And it may actually be the most important takeaway of all. The atmosphere, the energy, the confidence. Those themes continue appearing in conversations about the team. Anyone can say positive things during the off-season. That happens every year across the NFL. Every fan base talks itself into possibilities. Every team enters spring practices believing good things are ahead. But the descriptions coming from Cincinnati suggest something a little different. There is a recurring belief that the overall feeling around the organization has changed. Not just among players, not just among coaches, not just among fans, across the entire environment. Reports from people who have spent time around the team describe players who appear engaged, focused, and enthusiastic. There are repeated references to positive body language, players smiling, players actively participating, players appearing energized. Those details might sound small, but anyone who has followed sports long enough understands they can reveal a lot. Sometimes confidence is visible before results ever arrive. Sometimes belief becomes noticeable before a game is played. And that seems to be part of what observers are noticing right now. One of the most interesting comments came from Kay Adams, following her time around Cincinnati during a recent visit connected to Joe Burrow's foundation event. Her description centered on how different the environment felt compared to previous visits. The word confidence kept appearing. Not hope. Confidence. That's an important distinction. Hope suggests uncertainty. Confidence suggests belief. According to those observations, there is a feeling that the team understands what it wants to accomplish and believes it possesses the necessary pieces to make it happen. Whether that translates into success later remains unknown. The season is still far away. There is plenty of work left. There will be challenges. There will be adversity. There always is. But at this moment, the energy surrounding the team appears overwhelmingly positive. What's fascinating is how multiple developments have contributed to that feeling. The excitement surrounding Brian Cook, the encouraging progress of Eric All, the positive reactions to off-season additions, the enthusiasm generated by major roster moves, the commitment displayed by players during voluntary activities. All of it has combined to create momentum. And momentum matters. The comments discussed throughout OTA coverage repeatedly return to one central idea. The Bengals don't appear to be acting like a team merely hoping things work out. Instead, they appear to be carrying themselves like a team that believes it can accomplish its goals if it handles business properly. That's a subtle difference, but it's a meaningful one. The message isn't that success is guaranteed. Nobody can guarantee anything in the NFL. The message is that belief seems stronger than ever. The players appear invested. The coaches appear energized. The fan base appears engaged. And every OTA report seems to add another layer to that growing sense of optimism. Of course, reality will eventually arrive. Training camp will begin. Preseason games will happen. The regular season will test every expectation. That's where everything ultimately gets decided. But for now, the Bengals appear to be exactly where they want to be. A recovering player is making encouraging progress. A key off-season addition is already earning praise. And a team-wide confidence continues spreading throughout the organization. Those are meaningful developments. Those are the stories worth following. And as the next round of OTA practices approaches, all eyes will remain on whether these positive trends continue building momentum. For Eric All Jr., the focus will remain on health and continued recovery. For Brian Cook, the focus will remain on leadership, adaptation, and making an impact within the defense. And for the Bengals as a whole, the focus will remain on sustaining the energy and confidence that have become such a major talking point during the opening stages of the offseason. Right now, there is excitement. Right now, there is optimism. Right now, there is belief. And judging by everything coming out of the first OTA sessions, the people around this team are embracing every bit of it. Now, I want to hear from you. What stands out most to you from these OTA takeaways? Is Eric All Jr.'s comeback story the development you're watching most closely? Do you believe Brian Cook could become one of the team's leaders this season? And how would you describe the current vibe surrounding Cincinnati right now? Let me know your thoughts. Who Dey?